Hello and welcome to the Metabolic Balance Stories podcast. So I'm Cherry Wills, I'm your host today, and I'm delighted to introduce Karlie McKeand, who has joined me. Karlie is a very experienced naturopath, metabolic balance practitioner, and also the founder of the emotional release technique. So we're going to be diving deep into all things metabolic balance and ERT. So I can't wait. Hello, Karlie.
Hello, great to see you. Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. So you are an MB practitioner. So you're a naturopath, and then you trained in metabolic balance. Can I just start by sort of you sharing what drew you to metabolic balance in the first place?
Well, I really love working with people from an individual approach. I'm sort of that's just who I am. It's important. I don't like the whole cookie cutter because I see people in a very individualized way. And I think that, when we're treating people as their individual selves, we're actually going to get better results for them. And they're, where everybody has their own certain needs, and they've obviously got lots of different things going on. So looking at metabolic balance and having that as an individualized program for someone, that was very much so the draw card for me, because that was very much aligned to my values as a practitioner. And honestly, it was just the most incredible training ever because of that. Yeah, and especially like addressing, the fundamentals of our eating. It again, that was another big sort of factor in, really drawn to be trained in metabolic balance.
It is just what we're eating, isn't it? I mean, and as a natural medicine approach, I often say it's the foundation. Let's get people eating well.
Yes. And there's lots of reasons of why someone, is not. But even if they think that they're eating healthy, like, to actually having a plan that represents their body, their metabolism, their biochemistry, it makes a lot of sense to work out what somebody should be eating and how they should be eating.
Yeah. Did you have a niche? Remind me. Did you have a particular niche when?
No, not really. Like in clinical practice, I really did see everybody. There are certain areas that I really sort of started to attract a lot of clients in: thyroid health, metabolic health, hormonal health, stress, anxiety. That was, obviously that's quite a few niches there, but that particular sort of nervous system, I definitely attracted a lot of females into my practice. I did sort of see a lot of different things over the years.
So I'm very keen for you to share details about your actually the technique that you found. So can you just give us an insight? Where did this come from? The full background. Let's share that.
So the modality is called emotion release technique, and what it is, it's a way of assessing the nervous system to see if emotions are actually driving our physical symptoms, our stress responses, our behaviors, our thought processes, how we feel, how we think. And so when we get information from the nervous system, we can actually get a lot of information about the subconscious mind. So there's a lot of modalities that I've trained in over the years, and I collected a few of the modalities that I've trained in and created my own process. And so I found that when I was working with clients, because of the collection of what I was using, I was finding I was getting lots of amazing results. And, as I said before, I'm a practitioner that's always been very focused on treating the individual person. And so when we can actually have an individualized plan and actually be assessing the nervous system, it's almost like a recipe that's, designed to get results with the clients, right? So emotion release technique can, as I said, can actually assess why we do the things we do, behaviors, our thought processes, how we feel about ourselves, physical symptoms. And so when I, trained in metabolic balance, ERT was such an amazing, uh, you know, modality that I could be using in conjunction with it, because not only did someone have this exact plan that they needed to follow to get the results that they're after, they actually, if there was any sabotage that was happening, because sabotage we've got to see in different light of like it's going to happen and it's a good thing that it happens, and when it happens it gives us almost a key of what needs to be addressed. And so because when we make change, it is so likely, and it's almost expected that we're going to come up against ourselves in some way. But having a tool that we can, identify what's going on and actually process that from the body, it means that clients are able to stick on track. That they can actually address the things that they're coming up against. So they can come back to the plan and follow the instructions and, and actually start to get better and better and better results, whilst at the same time affecting the nervous system and actually understanding why we do certain things, why those behaviors are there.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? Emotions play they play a daily part of our lives. Of course we are. We're and it's the good stuff as well. It's the good stuff as well as the bad stuff that drives us to make any decision we do in a day. But sometimes those emotions and those sort of patterns that we have can also stop us actually getting what we kind of want in some sense, but somehow we kind of don't quite get our full mind in the right place, do we?
Yeah. And this is what I love to talk to clients about. It's like these sabotage patterns. So when we go against ourselves, when we feel the resistance, when we, don't want to do the thing, or there's a response happening in our body with changing our diet, drinking more water, fasting for 5 hours, whatever it might be, the body is communicating in some way. And sometimes our nervous system is aligned to our goals, but a lot of the time it's not. And it's not that the goals are wrong, it's just that there is a response happening in the body because there's change. Now, we are wired that if there's any change happening in the body, regardless if it's a better change, our body will have a response. And so I like to talk about it as emotions. Yes, that is what's happening. But even deeper than that, it's a response happening in the nervous system. And sometimes this is what, we create certain behaviors that get us off track of the things that we're wanting. And that's not really the truth of what's happening. It's that a response is happening in the body and we're not addressing it at the time of when that's happening, so that then we start to, other things start to trigger. It might be some belief systems that we have about ourselves, not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough, not feeling important, not feeling cared for. And those, deep self-limiting beliefs can actually cause a lot of behavioral responses, emotional eating, not prioritizing ourselves, getting off track. And so when these things happen, these sabotages, using ERT allows you to address exactly what's happening. We get to reset the nervous system so that it's aligned to the goals that we're after. And so it's easier for us to keep on track. But ERT is not just about, the plan. We can actually assess the body to make sure the organs are functioning, because sometimes there's a nervous system or an emotional response that actually impact the organs. And so if we're looking at metabolic health, we want to make sure that the thyroid's functioning well or the liver is functioning well. And if there's an emotional response affecting that, we want to address that. So when we are shifting weight and there's change happening in the body, everything gets to progress like it's supposed to, rather than it stalling. And sometimes that's where we will find that there's a plateau. Or if the thyroid's affected, this is why we get it more tired. And sometimes when we're tired, it triggers that response or that pattern of emotional eating, or using food as a way to bring our energy up. But actually we want to address the real issue, and sometimes that can be a function of an organ.
Yeah, I think it's that full recognition that emotions and beliefs as well, they play a massive role in the body, and it can keep us in a place that isn't actually serving us in any way, but it's kind of almost that place that the body's used to being. And if we can shift that, Yeah, like you say, it becomes identity. Yeah, it's on an identity level, isn't it?
And which is even stronger than a belief, right? If we have an identity that we just can't stick to things, or I have to eat every 2 hours, or I just don't drink water, or I have to have that glass of wine at night, like these become identities. And the nervous system wants to keep that because that's how the nervous system knows who they are. So the ERT helps to shift that, right? Not from a conscious level, but a subconscious level, because this is where all our thoughts are. Everything is driven from our subconscious mind. So if we can address it there and claim some new identities, right? That we are, we prioritize ourselves, and we drink 3 liters of water a day, and I try new foods, right? So if we can claim these identities whilst we're doing the metabolic balance program, it's so much easier for us to create the change that's needed, rather than these old identities that keep us really stuck.
Yeah, because all what we do with the nutrition plan from Metabolic Balance is like, this is what you have to do. But then getting, a person to take that almost that step to say, and really following it, because it's almost a bit of an inconvenient truth to say, yeah, you actually do have to follow what your body needs if you really want to get change. And so getting the mind on side, the emotions, the nervous system on your side, can shift it really massively. So do you work, or, is this an approach that could be good for people who are thinking of going with MB as well? Because I find one of the things I hear a lot is, oh no, I couldn't do that. I can't, I don't, like you say, I need to eat every 2 hours, or I don't cook. I don't like cooking. I will only eat certain foods because I don't like those foods. All these different reasons that can come out.
That's where I would start with ERT, right? And I've had clients like, oh, how I relax is I have the wine. Like I couldn't stop the wine. Like, or I to be social, I need to have that on the weekend. And it's like, all right, we have to start with the ERT first to address these beliefs, actually get really clear on what the goals are, actually start to work out, well, okay, well, why is the body needing that? Like, why do you think that you need to be drinking that every day or eating that food? Or, like, let's see why you consciously think that you're not able to start or not able to cook. Let's have a look, because the great thing about the nervous system and ERT is that we don't need someone consciously to be able to know why, because a lot of the times they wouldn't. It's actually a subconscious response, right? So we get to work with them so that they can get to a point of going, I'm ready. Because the reality is, getting a metabolic balance plan is the ultimate form of self care, right? This is what I should be eating, how I should be eating for my body. So anything that's getting in the way of actually just going and doing that is a nervous system response, is an emotional response, is a stress response. It's a belief system that needs to be aligned. There's identities that need to be shifted, and it is so simple to do that with ERT, right? It's a simple process, but we can actually make the most profound changes. So if with some of the clients in the past, I've started with ERT, and then when they're ready, we get the plan and they know that they are fully supported all the way through. Because sometimes someone doesn't want to start because they already have this belief that they're going to get off track, that they're going to, that they're going to start and they're not going to commit to themselves. And that isn't the truth. That's just how it has been in the past. But we want to create some change here. And the ERT process is amazing for that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a human being, I think we are the most adaptive creatures on the planet, are we not? We can change and adapt. And yet it is this strange idea that something that you can, oh, this is just me, I can't change. But we know as human beings we're incredibly creative and adaptive and flexible. We know we are.
Yeah. And that's what I love about the ERT, is that you can find out exactly the emotion that's actually causing that response, or even the belief system that's feeding that response that's really limiting somebody from their potential, you can actually work out where the emotion began. So you can get a really clear understanding of the pattern or the programming. It might be someone in their life, it could be some experience that they've had that creates that. So by having the insight, they have a lot more understanding of why this is happening. And that can sometimes fuel them to make a change to their belief systems or how they're thinking. And to be quite honest, in all the work that I've done over the years, what I find is to be the biggest block is somebody is resistance to their potential and them improving themselves, right? And so what happens is that they think that it's failing, fear of failing, but to be quite honest, it's actually the fear of improving and what their potential is. So this is where the ERT we can have a look and go, all right, well, what do you want for yourself? And when people think, oh, it's all too hard and I can't cook, that's almost someone limiting themselves of even opening their mind to a potential of what life looks like if they do start cooking and they do start prioritizing themselves and the fundamental basics of feeding themselves and nourishing themselves. There's absolutely belief systems that's creating that behavior or those thoughts, and it's a limitation.
Yeah. I want to pick up on a couple of things of what you just said there, because for one thing, you sort of said about the ultimate in self-care. So the need for self-care is increasingly sort of, it's we see social media posts all the time, oh, you've got to do self-care and you've got to do this. But often when I look at those posts, and I kind of want to know what you think here on this. When I look at those posts, it seems incredibly superficial at the time what is said as being self-care. I mean, the idea that, I don't know, going for a walk, going for a walk is vital, but that's all you do for self-care. As in, you could be doing, feeding yourself terrible food and never drinking water and not, doing anything else. But if you've done a walk, okay, that's self-care. To me, self-care is actually what is going to really change your body cells and your body and enhance your health. And then all the rest is like the icing on the cake. But the cake has to be what you're actually eating.
I actually find it is the biggest form of self-care, right? And also when we are not caring for ourselves, it's also very clear to see through our behaviors, right? So it is self-care. People think of it like getting a massage once a month, and I actually, that's almost like in a totally different category to me. That's just an extra amazing thing, great, but daily nutrition
Can have amazing impact as well. I mean, we know a massage can.
but it can't undo the daily things that we're missing. Yeah. And so when we're feeding and nourishing ourselves and preparing a meal, there is so much energetics that come with that. We are intentionally wanting to nourish ourselves, and the energetics of that is huge, right? And this is why we have to do that on a daily basis and actually have the importance of, it's this time I need to eat. I need to prepare my lunch. I need to organize myself and meal plan so I've got food for me. Like, that is the ultimate self-care, right? And then when we're not caring for ourselves, we skip meals. We're prioritizing everybody else except for our own. We're eating food off the plates of our children. Like, this is an indication that there is some misalignment here, that we are not caring for ourselves as much as we need on the basic needs of nutrition and nurturing, which is our food and our food choices. When we're emotional eating, when we are eating foods to get certain responses like a dopamine hit or something, again, it's an indication that something's off. Something's out of balance. The nervous system might be heightened. There's a self-soothing mechanism that's being activated. And again, ERT can identify what's going on here. And then because the whole point is to get back into the basics of nutrition. It should be just easy for us to eat these meals that are for us, that we know exactly are tested for our metabolism, and eating in a way that benefits us. But the reality is, for most people, there's things that come up, and it's coming up because it's giving us an opportunity to address. And if we're doing this in combination with the metabolic balance plan, it is life changing. It is a huge transformation. And the biggest transformation is to come back and actually give ourselves that love, that that importance, the priority that we need for ourselves in our own life, and we benefit hugely. We feel better, we have more confidence, we feel more energetic, we feel like we're sleeping better. There's so much benefit that comes with this, and we just need to address the things that are getting in the way, the bit of the resistance that's stopping us from getting to that place.
What do you say about intuitive eating? I just want to ask you just straight on that. What do you say about that?
So I have a few different things around this, right? I think that there is a huge amount of intuitive eating that we can understand what we should have and how we should be eating. But a lot of us are so not in our body to actually understand what intuitive eating is, right? Most people are so stressed, they're so in their head, they've got anxiety, they're overwhelmed. And how can we tap into our intuition when we're currently or always in that state? So it really depends on the person. Um, Sometimes we are running on adrenaline and cortisol, and we have these stress hormones, and so it affects our appetite. So we don't actually know when we should be eating and we should. So I've got clients that, are really stressed. They've got a lot of pressure and they think that they can be fasting all day because they're not getting an appetite. Yet I actually think that there's a dysfunction or there's an issue within the nervous system that's actually creating that response. And I don't think it's for the absolute best for their body. I actually think by eating the 3 meals a day and regulating the insulin and regulating the blood sugars are so much better for them. So sometimes when we're looking at intuitive eating, it really depends on the person. And most of us are not fully in our body to understand that.
You've got to be in balance, haven't you, to actually be able to do intuitive eating. I mean, that's I think the key. So we've talked a lot about the emotional release technique, but I think possibly a question maybe burning in people's mind is, exactly what does it involve? I mean, how do you do this for somebody?
It's a really simple process, and there are practitioners, metabolic balance practitioners that are also trained in ERT. They can work online, or they might have a practice. So it doesn't matter if you're in person or online. We can do the technique. It's an assessment tool. So we're actually assessing the nervous system, and it's done through muscle testing. Muscle testing is a way to test the autonomic part of the nervous system. And this is the nervous system that knows everything about us. So when we get information here, we get so much information. Now, maybe a lot of people have heard of tapping before. And the difference between ERT and tapping is that we can specifically identify exactly the response that's happening. And so this can give a lot of insight to somebody around, what the emotion is and where it goes back to and what the pattern might be. That can give a lot of insight and understanding. And actually, as a practitioner, you might be able to create a bit of a plan or have some things in place that might support the client on what they're actually needing based on what's coming up in the subconscious. And so it's we process through the meridian system. So this is in Chinese medicine. We have meridians that lie around the body. Each meridian has a collection of emotions. So we actually specifically identify the emotion. We've got different acupressure points on the body that actually help the processing. Sometimes we use some EFT sentences, but as I said, the process is very efficient. It is very simple, but very, very, very effective. And the things that we've been able to process through ERT is absolutely amazing. The other amazing thing about ERT is we get to clients might talk about the emotions that are coming up and the experiences that they've had, or they can be they can be private. They don't actually have to talk at all. And this is also important from a practitioner's perspective too, is that if you're a practitioner and you are happy to talk about, what someone's been through or what's going on, then it gives you an opportunity, it gives you a framework to actually work through. And if you're a practitioner that doesn't want to talk about emotions, but you're still wanting to address the core issues of what's happening with your clients, then this framework gives you a complete process that you can do that without your client having to disclose any information or any sort of information about what they've been through, which is amazing.
I think that's really interesting as well, isn't it? How the emotions can stay within the body, even from past trauma. We know that with the increasing research talks about adverse events, childhood adverse events, or any adverse event throughout life. We know all the effects of, PTSD can have incredibly strong impact.
And sometimes this is why somebody has put on weight. Obviously, we don't just metabolic balance is not just for weight, right?
It's one of the key things it can address. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, we can understand why somebody, puts on weight because there's sometimes trauma, there's lots of reasons of why somebody would want to do that. And sometimes when clients are doing all the right things, they're following the plan and the weight isn't releasing, that's where ERT comes in of working out why the body is holding on to this because the body and body fat can be a way of the body, protecting itself. So this gives us an opportunity of getting more information around what could be going on because as you said the body keeps the score, and if people have been through things there's a reason of why the body wants to protect itself. And as I said, MB is absolutely incredible, and ERT just allows for more deeper investigation if necessary. We get to work out why the behaviors are playing out in certain ways, and so it complements it beautifully.
Yeah. Isn't it fascinating? It's fascinating how the body works.
It is. And you actually made a great point. There's more and more and more research, and it's actually coming out, every day around the emotional component of physical symptoms and, obviously behaviors. We know that, mental health, we know that, but there's a lot more research that's coming out. So actually having a tool that we can utilize in a clinical setting for our clients and their health and to keep them on track and keep them committed and keep them coming back and committed to their own goals, it's really important.
It's just like that little sort of little piece that just unlocks a block, isn't it? And it doesn't have to be this endless talking around why the block was even there in the first place. Because, I mean, I suppose that's another thing to probably touch on is how it also, because I'm always incredibly, big advocate. We have to. It's so important to work with all the different modalities. Refer to the right professionals and people when they are doing any kind of real personal lifestyle, um, chronic ill health, or change. Having a full team of people that can really help you address different aspects is really key. We get the food right, but actually to be able to then really empower somebody to feel strong and confident to put that self-care forward can take all different specialities as well, can't it?
I totally agree with that. What I do like though is that when we're working with the food and we're working with metabolic balance plan and we're using ERT and having an understanding of what someone's been through, the actual experience they're having, because sometimes people don't share the depths of what they're going through or what they have been through. But when we get an understanding of like really understanding what someone's been through, sometimes we actually can support the client better and in different ways. And maybe our treatment protocol might change a little bit based on more information and more understanding. And so, you know, I don't know if I can share this here, but I've had a lot of clients actually around, having a sabotage and eating when they should be fasting. And the amount of clients that I've had that actually come back to a childhood trauma where they were sent to school without food. There was a lots of, issues with, not having enough food when they were younger. And so it triggers a response of them always wanting to have food and not to get hungry. And so without knowing that information, and that information only come up not because of memory, but because of the ERT process, because they obviously didn't connect the two. But then it's easier to understand why somebody's doing that. The client's understanding why, that's happening. So as a practitioner, when we get more information around what someone has been through, we get to understand and look at the whole holistic picture in a bit of a different way, where they're more supported, and the more support they have, as you mentioned, the more chance of them, moving forward and achieving the things that they desire for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's helping people create their own potential is possibly where I think is always been my passion.
Yeah. And you know what? Even a bit more than that, right? Even as they, and you've probably found that with clients before, the more that they improve, they set the goalpost even more because, they couldn't even conceptualize.
Yeah, they increasingly see new opportunities, isn't it? The new potential.
Yeah, isn't that great? Yeah,
And it's the sadness that so many people live in a way that, you know, is keeping them in that struggle for in their health. Because again, they're either not empowered to know how the different food is truly impacting them. But also there's that belief that they can't do anything different.
that's exactly right. Or they don't know how to. And I guess that's why the MB plan's so great. It's like, this is what you need to do. Follow this. This is for you. This is exactly what you and your body and your metabolism needs. So that just helps them to not, know what to do. But it's almost like, supporting them with the extra part of like, why is this happening? Why has this happened? Why are the behaviors in this way? Why are the thought processes? And if we can address both, it's amazing.
Yeah. So, Carly, you're the founder of Emotional Release Technique, and you offer training to practitioners, and you have, as a metabolic balance practitioner yourself as well, you've also helped many MB practitioners across Australia and New Zealand also be able to utilize this practicing, this tooling clinic. If people do want to know more about this technique, how would they find out more?
So, looking at the website www.emotionreleasetechnique.com, my social pages, so Karlie McKeand on Instagram, that's probably the best way of finding me. There's lots of information around the certification. And the other thing that I love about what I do, and I feel like this is very similar to you, Cherry, is that I'm really committed about helping practitioners become better practitioners and supporting them as much as I can. And so in the certification, I work with practitioners, not just teaching them the technique, but I use the technique to address anything that might be getting in their way. So I'm really committed to helping practitioners. And this is literally a bonus that they get for, joining the certification. It's a 3-month program that they get. And purely for me to help them to help their clients better, get rid of any of their own blocks that might be getting in the way, and I think that we have a very shared vision on that around constantly supporting practitioners, because if we support the practitioners to become you know the best practitioner that they can be, and they're recommending the right things at the right time for other clients and working through all the blocks to get their clients to be committed to themselves, we are helping more people. And so so the certification includes working with me for 3 months, and that's as a bonus. And yeah, I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, both, what we do is it's empowering the client to know what they need to do and be able to eat well and look after themselves well.
Absolutely. And both of these programs change people's lives. And I think it's just the it's a big thing.
It is. Well, I feel really lucky to have you also part of my community. So a big thank you to you too.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so it's been wonderful to talk to you today. Thank you, Carly, for joining me. And yeah, all of the links that Carly mentioned will, of course, be in the show notes as well. And if you want to learn more about metabolic balance, go to the metabolic-balance.com website and you can find your practitioner and learn more there. So a big thank you to Carly, and a big thank you for joining us too.
Thank you.